I see you at the top. That's where I go. Hate me now, love me later like I...
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kirby Chenkin, and I'm going to be here with my son, Kirby Chenkin, for infinity. We're planning on doing this. We're planning on doing this on a regular basis. The exact schedule hasn't been determined. We're going to be interviewing people at the top. It's called the See You at the Top podcast for a reason. And we want to interview the people around this country, especially in the area where we live in Houston, Texas, who are the top professionals, the top athletes, the top entertainers, the top promoters.
Top health experts.
The top health experts. And Kirby and I are going to split different times of different hosts. I have more of an expertise in the legal system and in sports. He has a much higher expertise in fitness, as you can see by my stomach and his stomach. Like Kirby said, we each have different types of expertises, and we're going to bring you the best of the best. That's what this purpose is. The purpose is to bring out the best and have each and every one of you individuals out there become the best versions of yourself. You can't become the next Michael Jordan. You can't become the next LeBron James or the next president of this. You can become the best version of yourself.
And one thing I want to say is we're not just going to bring on the people that are making the most money in the industry. We're going to bring on, people who are just getting going with their entrepreneurial endeavors, with whatever career they're in. So it's not all about just bringing on the people that are already at the top of their career, the top of whatever career or business they're in. We're going to bring on people at the beginning and in the middle as well, because see you at the top, it's an evolution. Here's what I mean when I say see you at the top. I don't mean I'll see you at the top. I'm at the top and you're at the bottom. I'm saying, hey, let's all get to the top together. Let's evolve and let's grow together. Teamwork makes the dream work. Iron sharpens iron. Let's keep going and let's get there together. Unity is strength.
Today, I'm going to interview Kirby Chenkin, and he's going to tell you the story of KirBeBetter and how KirBeBetter has come from where it started to today. Good afternoon, Kirby. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Dad. First, I just want to say I'm very grateful for you, Dad. I wouldn't be where I am today, sitting right here, getting ready to inspire millions of people with the See at the Top podcast. So I'm really grateful for you, Dad. I know we've been through a lot of ups and downs together, but I wouldn't trade any of it in for the world. I wouldn't trade one moment of it, because everything happened for a reason and got us right to where we are right now. And just like I told you after that Dr. DeMartini seminar that I went through, you are great and you are perfect and you have everything you need inside of you. And don't let anybody take that away from you. You have everything you need inside of you to achieve all of your dreams, and you're perfect as you are.
Well, I thought this was going to be a happy seminar, an uplifting seminar. And before we even started, he's trying to put tears in my eyes. And that's why I've got these sunglasses on. So I'm going to keep these sunglasses on, and we're going to tell the story of Kirby Chenkin, where Kirby started. He was born on May 28th. His mother is named Pam Barbin. And I'm going to leave it to you, Kirby. Tell your story.
So I was born in Houston, Texas, to an awesome Brooklyn, New Yorker, and I was born in Houston, Texas in 1989, and it's been a heck of a ride. There's been a lot of ups and downs, and it hasn't been easy, but I don't think anything is easy at the end of the day, and we've been through a lot together, and life started out pretty great for me. Started out pretty great. I love sports. As you know, you put every sports ball in my crib that you could possibly think of.
I think your mother thought you were going to drown from the basketball or the hockey stick or the tennis racket.
And things were going great. I was one of the smartest kids in the class early on, and then things really started to get challenging for me when you and my mom got divorced, and that's when things definitely took a turn. As you know, we moved to Alabama for a year, and I went from being one of the smartest kids in the class to quickly being labeled ADD, ADHD, and they couldn't figure out why I couldn't sit still. And, there's a story, I just love moving more than anything, and, there's a story that my mom tells when I was, 3 or 4 years old. I went to my first wedding, and one of her friends goes, "Pam, is that Kirby?" And she goes, "Yeah, where's he at?" And they go, "He's at the top of the flagpole." So I just loved moving from the day I was born. I was born with a lot of energy, wasn't I?
Tremendous amount of energy.
Tremendous amount of energy, and I feel like I then started getting labeled. When we moved into Alabama with my grandparents on my mom's side, we started getting labeled. They couldn't figure out why I couldn't sit still. They started putting me on different medication, ADD medicine, ADHD medicine. I was on 3 or 4 medications at one point, and I feel like what they try to do is they try to label kids and they try to put them in a box. And that's why I don't fully agree with the way that the school system is set up, because I don't think that they realize that each and every student has a creative genius inside of them, and that if they just ask them similar questions to Dr. DeMartini does, and similar questions to find out what makes that kid tick, what is that kid most inspired by, then they can bring out that creative genius in them. The school system is set up to turn people into 9-to-5 workers, and that's what they did to me. They put me in a box, and for a long time I thought I had all these issues until I met Dr. DeMartini and his daughter Brescia DeMartini, who you introduced me to. And then I realized exactly what I just told you, that we are all great, that we are all perfect, that we all have greatness inside of us. And I then started to, at the time when I met Dr. DeMartini, this was, the start of KirBeBetter. I was taking still OCD and ADHD medicine because I thought that's what I needed. And I went from being the smartest kid in the class to being one of the most labeled. And we moved back after a year. And as you know, you and my mom went through a pretty rough divorce. It wasn't amicable by any means. And then I moved back down here, and I just remember all I wanted to do was play sports all day long. I wanted to play basketball. I wanted to work out. I wanted to run. I wanted to jump on trampolines. And school was just not a skill set that I had. I just did not, I wasn't into what they were teaching me at all. And they quickly, from 5th grade, they started putting me on a whole bunch of medication, maybe just 1 or 2 medications. And then I graduated. I ended up, squeezing my way through with A's, B's, and C's from Settlers Way Elementary School in Sugar Land, Texas. And then I graduated and I started going to middle school. But I remember walking in that first day. I get out of my mom's car, and 2 of the most beautiful girls walk up to me, and I got them hooked on each arm. And I walk into school and I said, "Man, this is exactly what I thought middle school was going to be like." I said, "I can't wait for this." And all the way, for that whole first year, I was definitely one of the most popular kids in the class. I definitely, was one of the most popular kids, one of the most well-liked, and I had 6 or 7 girlfriends. Of course, all you did is, kiss back then, so it was, nothing too serious, of course, but I had about 6 or 7 girlfriends. I was one of the most liked kids in the schools, but I was never really able to pass math class. But I ended up making it through 6th grade, and I ended up going to summer school. But then the thing that gave me the most confidence back then was playing basketball. It's what I loved more than anything, and I was really good at it, I feel like. And then I get into 7th grade, and in 7th grade, you try out. You can't play basketball in 6th grade. You have to wait till 7th grade. And I then remember about 3 weeks before basketball tryouts. So I was still getting by school, but I was barely getting by my math classes. I was able to manipulate my way, hustle a little bit through school. And about 3 weeks before basketball tryouts, which is what gave me the most confidence at the time, I was literally one of the most, people anticipated me to be one of the starters on the A team. And I remember about 3 weeks before that, they couldn't figure out why I couldn't sit still in math class and why I was doing so bad in my classes, even though I was still one of the most well-liked kids. So they took me to this doctor. I'm not going to mention his name. It's not worth, mentioning any names, because at the end of the day, I'm very grateful for this doctor. Even if something appears bad when it happens, everything happens for a reason. There's blessings that you can take from everything, and at the end of the day, everything gets you to right where you are, right in the moment. And at the end of the day, that's the best place to be. So I have no regret. I have no hate towards this guy whatsoever, but he put me on 5 different medications 3 weeks before basketball tryouts. I was on Xanax. I was on Xanax at night. I was on Ritalin during the day, and 2 or 3 more different medications. And I remember, it was probably about a month before, 3 weeks, a month before tryouts, I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get my legs working. And of course, I've had to, go back and really analyze all this and understand it. And I remember just doing a simple drill, like dribbling the ball up the court. Simple drill to where you just dribble the ball up the court and shoot a layup. I was falling down during that drill, and I couldn't get my equilibrium or balance, and I kept falling down. And to make a long story short, I ended up making the B team, and that shattered my dreams. And then I actually started to develop a whole bunch of different tics and stuff like that, because I started to then become a victim of being bullied. I became a victim of getting picked on. And I was one of the shortest kids already. So I went from being one of the most popular kids in the class to then becoming one of the most picked on and bullied kids in the school. And I made the B team, and I made it through one season of the B team, but I was way off, and I didn't really, in my opinion, perform very well on the B team, and that was it. That was the end of my basketball career that day. And I then ended up picking up tennis and, started playing tennis a little bit after that. Got introduced to a friend that really showed me how to play tennis, and I was able to make it through. High school, middle school, and I was always trying to manipulate the system in a lot of ways. And I always told myself, you know what, I'm not going to study in middle school because middle school doesn't even count. It was one of these things I always told myself, and I was like, hey, when I get to high school, that's when I'm really going to start. That's when I'm really going to start pushing it. And of course, that never happened. But
So in high school, what happens? In high school, what I recall happening, I wasn't living with you at the time. I was separated from you and Brianna during the time period. But in high school, you then get thrown out of Clements High School for smoking weed. And you weren't even smoking weed at the time. They just found seeds in your car, if I remember correctly.
no, I was smoking weed at the time.
You were smoking weed. But they didn't catch you smoking weed.
They didn't catch me smoking weed. They found some seeds and stems in my car. So I ended up making it out, as you know, of First Colony Middle School. Started playing tennis. Started picking it up real quick. Actually, the kid that taught me how to play tennis, I actually got on his level within about 1 year of him teaching me how to play it. And I ended up going to Clements, and I ended up playing on the tennis team there. And stuff started out pretty good for me, but the same thing kept happening. I couldn't pass math class. I just ran away from math. And to be honest, I hustled my way through school. Even in college, I hustled my way through. I really did not enjoy school until I started studying entrepreneurship. But so, I started out Clements pretty good. Started out playing college tennis, made the varsity tennis team pretty quickly, made it through my freshman year.
Whoa. Let's slow this down a little bit. I think you're going a little too fast. I think the reason why you got thrown out of Clements High School was a combination. You figured out a way that if you got thrown out of classes, you can hang out with the athletes and watch TV instead of going to class, is what I recall. Are you passing that over completely for a reason?
No, but so my freshman year, I made it through most of my classes, but once again I found myself in summer school. And then midway through sophomore year, I started smoking weed. And I remember from the first time I took my first hit, I said, I love this stuff. Weed, and I definitely don't have anything against weed. I'm actually 2020. I told myself in 2019 that if I don't get full control over smoking weed is something you've really criticized that I do quite a bit throughout my entire career. You've had definitely a negative connotation with weed for a long time now. We've been to Amsterdam together, so I know.
I have a negative thing about weed is I think weed, marijuana, CBD, all these type of drugs are excellent drugs, but they have to be used for a specific purpose. If you have trouble sleeping, if you have different ailments, you use weed. But when you smoke weed, the first thing you do in the morning, you start smoking weed. Hey, I got friends that are 65 years old smoking weed. They've been smoking weed all their entire lives, and they're still smoking weed, and they're not doing a damn thing with their lives. So the connotation I have about weed is that it's like anything else. It's like water. Too much water, you're going to drown. Too much weed, you're going to drown also.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%, and that's why in 2019 I told myself if I do this for more than 50% of the year, and if I do it for one day over 50% of the year, then I have to do something drastic. And I ended up smoking it closer to 60% of 2019, and that's why I said there's no better time than going into 2020 with 2020 vision. And I've been completely sober this entire year. I haven't had anything that's mind altering, no alcohol, no weed, and it's been probably the most growth I've had in my life, and it's been the most focused, driven year I've ever had. And I'm really looking forward to getting to see At the Top podcast going. I'm looking forward to what the future has in store for me and you to continue to grow, because I know we've been through a whole lot together, and we can share a lot of that about along the way. But when I took my first hit of weed, definitely because, like you said, I'm so high energy. I have so much energy, and this energy has to go somewhere. So now, because I'm aligned, now that I understand who I am, what I want, I'm able to focus my energy in one direction now. But as a kid that's clueless, that has no idea what he wants to do, and all these teachers are trying to put me in a box and label me ADD, ADHD, and all this stuff, I didn't know where to put my energy. And I stopped playing sports because I wasn't succeeding at that, and I started hanging around the wrong crowd. And I started hanging around the wrong crowd at about midway through my sophomore year. I started hanging around all the pot smokers. And I started getting away from that crowd that was really the jocks, the athletes, the kids that were doing good in school. And I started hanging around the outcasts, whatever you want to call them. And I felt connected to them because they were just like me. They were being labeled. You know, they didn't like school like I liked it. So I felt a connection with them. And when I started smoking weed, it took my energy and just put me in the moment. So it allowed me to just take all this energy, all these thoughts, and just relax. And I think weed is incredible for helping you relax. But just like you said, anything you don't control controls you. And I haven't had control of weed until 2020. It's the first time in my life that I've controlled weed. And I'm not doing it. And I definitely am all for smoking marijuana, but I think it has to be controlled and it has to be healthy because they're putting a ton of different chemicals in this marijuana that is really unhealthy. And I think it's got to be regulated and it's got to be healthy and it's got to be produced and manufactured in a clean way, the same way that I don't eat anything that's not organic or non-GMO. So I'm very, very strict about that. But I started smoking weed, and you know, they saw a kid that was running around, not following the rules. I wonder where I got that from. I got it from this guy right here, because
I follow the rules I agree with. The rules I don't agree with, I don't follow.
he breaks more rules than anybody I know, but he doesn't break the legal. You know, he knows exactly how to push it to where he doesn't get in trouble. And he taught me that, and I think that's a great skill for entrepreneurs to have, because if you're constantly listening to all the rules and you're not willing to cross that line a little bit and push that envelope, then you're just blending in. You're fitting in with society. And where people that are evolving and getting to the top, they're the people that don't want to blend in. They don't want to fit in. They want to be unique. They want to be different. And that's what I'm going for as well. And you definitely are very unique yourself. And I think you have to be willing to kind of test that a little bit. And so if, I wasn't following the rules at Clemens High School, I wasn't showing up to class on time, and they ended up, the first time they found some seeds and stems in my car, because they definitely were like, who's this kid? They started watching me. And the first time my car died in Clemens parking lot, and they found some seeds and stems in my car. Next thing I know, they take me out of class. They got 6 people, principal, 2 cops, and they say, Kirby, the drug dogs hit on your car. Can we search your car? And this is the first time I'm telling this story. I don't tell this story, and my dad used to tell this story when I first graduated from the University of Texas at Dallas, and I was definitely insecure with it when he first started telling it, because I wasn't where I am right now from a mental, physical, and spiritual perspective. And now I realize that my story can inspire others, and that everything that's happened in my past, it happened for a reason, to get me right where I am here in the moment, moving forward. So they hit on my car, and they begged me to search my car, and I didn't know what to do. They ended up searching my car, and they found some seeds and stems in there, and they kicked me out, and they put me into a behavior learning center.
No, they try to put you in a behavior learning center.
They did.
They put you in this behavior learning center, and how long did that last for?
It was probably about 3 months, and now I truly believe that you are a product of your environment. So I went from hanging around, Clements High School kids, kids where their parents are inspiring people, doctors, lawyers, to hanging around, kids where their parents aren't that, where they're just struggling just to pay their bills. And I was hanging around a lot of drug dealers, that's the type of people that were in that environment. So I started to pick up a little bit of a hood side to me as well. And then I ended up making it through the Behavior Learning Center. They put me back in Clements High School.
Well, it's amazing that I'm learning something from this very interview, because I was under the impression that they wanted to put you in a behavior learning center, but I was in such a bad place with your mother that I didn't even really know that you were in a behavior learning center, because I remember talking to the administrator when they wanted you to go to a permanent school, that I told him I put him in that permanent school before I was going to allow my son to go in a permanent school, and that's when you went on to the next school. Where was the next school you went to after that?
So from Clements High School?
Yes.
So I came back from that behavior learning program, and about a month later, all of a sudden, same people take me out of class, and they say, Mr. Chenkin, probably they called me Mr. Kirby back then, and they said, the drug dogs hit on your car again. And they come out, and they came out, and they said, can we search your car? And I didn't have a choice. Gave them the keys. They searched the car. Seeds and stems again. They found it right back to Behavior Learning Center. I then decided to drop out of school. I told my mom, I told you guys, I said, I'm not going to school anymore. And now I'm junior in high school. I'm a dropout, and I come from an incredible mother who's the greatest mother I can I can possibly imagine. She is the ultimate mother. She challenged me. She supported me. She was there for me when I really needed her, and I just, and I had a great father that was giving me all the tools that I really needed to succeed in life. And I ended up dropping out of school, and then I started working with you for a couple months, and you started showing me how to hustle a little bit for cases for, in the legal industry. That's when I really first started learning the legal industry. And then the next thing I know, I go to Galveston one day, and I remember, my mom started organizing all these different counselor meetings. She was like, she just goes, Kirby, I cannot let you just sit around and do nothing and be a high school dropout. I refuse, as your mother, to let that happen. And that's why I love my mom so dearly, and I love you so dearly as well, because you guys never gave up on me.
I've always told people, in the beginning during the divorce, I couldn't stand your mother, but to this day I tell people that I always thought the greatest mother in the world was my mother. But my mother wasn't the greatest mother in the world. She was, because she raised you by yourself. I was the Disneyland dad. I was the dad who took you to Astroworld. I was the dad who took you to Sweetwater Country Club to play golf.
Definitely.
The day-to-day workings from the time that you left Houston, I didn't sit around doing the homework with you. I didn't do all that.
I agree.
She basically did that by yourself with your aunt.
But I will say, don't sell yourself short, because a lot of my confidence comes from you.
I'm not selling myself short. I'm just telling her that she did an incredible job in raising both you and Brianna.
Right. And as you know, I write all of my life lessons down. So if I have one of these profound moments, I like to write it down on a sheet of paper. Not on a sheet of paper. I write it down in something I call my life lessons. I have these tools that I'm developing that allow me to really stay organized and help me just operate better and more efficiently. And I have these tools, and I write my life lessons down, and I had this very inspiring moment with my dad. The very first life lesson that I ever wrote down was we were at the top of this building here in Houston, and my dad was showing me around, and it's a beautiful building. It's one of the most gorgeous buildings you can imagine. And my dad says, Kirby, I'm not a businessman, but I've showed you the best of the best. I've showed you the best that life has to offer. And I know that deep down inside of you, you have everything that you need to do whatever you want to do in this world. You have everything you need inside of you to achieve all of your dreams, but I'm not going to be able to do it for you. You're going to have to do it yourself. And that has stuck with me ever since you ever told that to me. So when I was going through these rough times, and when they were telling me that I was OCD, that I was ADHD, and that I wasn't going to be anything, and the doctors told me I had learning disabilities, something deep down inside of me said, keep going, Kirby. It's not going to be like this. Something's going to change eventually, and I'm going to make something of myself one day.
So you leave there, and then you're
so
next
exactly. So I leave there, and I'm pretty much a high school dropout, hanging around dope heads, people that like me just want to smoke weed and hang out all day. Even doing a little bit harder drugs. I definitely did some harder drugs as well. Nothing too crazy, but I definitely got into other drugs.
We're not talking about anything unless the statute of limitations is gone on it.
Okay, Counselor Chenkin. And I was smoking cigarettes at the time. And then all of a sudden, one of my friends goes, Kirby, do you want to go to Galveston for the night? And, I was telling you a bit before, my mom was taking me to all these counseling meetings, so I was kind of wondering, why is she taking me to all these counseling meetings? She just kept saying, because I'm going to find a way for you, Kirby. I'm not going to let you just, sit here like this and not do anything. I refuse to let this happen to you. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make sure that you grow. And I'm growing, baby, all the way to the top. So all of a sudden, I'm in Galveston one night with my friends. Take my friend's beautiful Hummer. He's got two massive subwoofers in the car, and we go to Galveston, and we're smoking weed, having a great time. We were in a hotel, and I get a call from my mom, and my mom says, Kirby, where are you at? And I said, Mom, I'm in Galveston. I didn't tell you. I'm sorry. I knew you weren't going to let me go. What? You're in Galveston? Get your butt home right now. I said, Mom, I didn't drive. I can't come home right now. You're going to have to wait until first thing in the morning when I come home. And she's livid. She's furious. And she got mad, but I haven't seen her get this mad. And she's freaking out. She goes, you got to come home, Kirby. We got something really special in the morning. I'm like, oh, Mom, I'm not coming home. Should I tell this whole story?
Tell the whole story.
Tell the whole story? Okay, perfect. Because of course it's nothing but love for my mom. I love her more than anything. I love you more than anything. I love Brianna more than I can put into words. So I get a call from my sister. And my sister says, Kirby, I need to buy some weed. I'm pretty pretty crazy. I didn't think I'd be talking about this, but she goes, Kirby, I need to buy some weed. And I was selling a couple grams here and there back then just to get by. And I said, Brianna, I'm in Galveston. You're gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to wait until I come back in the morning. She goes, Kirby, I need it right now. I will come out to Galveston. I said, gotta make some money. Come on, Bri. So she comes out to Galveston. I'm preparing the weed. I'm getting the weed ready. Just probably about 7 grams or so. And she gets there. And I give her the weed. And then she goes, I want to go to Whataburger real quick. I said, Brianna, I got to get back with a friend. She goes, no, come with me to Whataburger. I just drove all this way. So we go to Whataburger, and I order a cheeseburger. You didn't hear that. KirBeBetter doesn't eat cheeseburgers these days. and I ordered a cheeseburger. Back then, I didn't understand how important health was. And I ordered some fries. And I think balance is key at the end of the day. One cheeseburger is not going to kill you. It's all about balance. And I ordered the cheeseburger, and I go, Brianna, what are you getting? She doesn't order anything. And something kind of, a radar went up in my mind. And then next thing, we're driving back to the hotel, and I said, Brianna, I don't know why you didn't want anything. She goes, just my stomach's hurting. I said, okay, well, I love you, Brianna, and, sorry you had to drive all this way, but she gave me the money, $100 or whatever it was, and I turned to my right. And next thing I know, it's just these 2 massive individuals. And they come, and Brianna jumps right out the car. And I said, whoa, what's going on? What's going on? And they sat me down in the car. I thought I was getting kidnapped. And I started swinging a little bit. They wrapped their arms around me. I'm a little 5'2" kid. I had no shot against these ex-football players. And to make a long story short, they were hired by you and my mom and Brianna to come kidnap me in the middle of the night to take me to a wilderness program for troubled teens. And I was so furious when it happened. I was cussing at you guys, and I definitely look back on that, and like I said, I don't regret anything. I've told my mom that was not the best way for me to act, and I've told her how much I love her, and of course she knows that that it's nothing but love between us.
Let's talk about the trip from Whataburger to Utah. How did you get from Whataburger to Utah?
Perfect. So I got kidnapped by these 2 individuals. They put handcuffs around my neck.
They legally kidnapped you. They did not kidnap you.
They legally
kidnapped
you.
you.
I didn't want to get kidnapped. So they legally kidnapped me, and they said, hey, your parents have paid for us to take you because they didn't think you guys you wouldn't go willingly, and I definitely wouldn't have. And if I would have been at my house, I would have opened that window and ran and jumped off that roof so fast. So it was a good thing they got me in Galveston. And they took me they said, you're going to a wilderness program. You're going to be hiking. You're going to be learning life skills. You're going to be doing different activities every single day to just help you become a better person, essentially. And next thing I know, they dropped me off in the middle of the desert. There's about 10 other kids out there. There's beautiful, tents and stuff set up. And that was the start of me hiking in the Salt Lake City West Desert for about 2 or 3 months. And it was an incredible experience. But I was a kid from Houston, Texas that I'd never seen snow before, one time maybe, to being thrown into, freezing conditions. So I really started to get tested there.
How long did you stay there for?
I feel like it was about 2 or 3 months. And, I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I feel like that's the first time I started to really understand who I was, and I started to shift my identity for who I was, and I started to do push-ups again every day. I wasn't smoking cigarettes. I wasn't smoking weed. And that's when I really started to develop an identity for who I was. And I wanted to be somebody that was physically fit, that was strong. And I remember I was always leading the pack. When we were hiking, I was at the front of that pack. Almost every single hike. When they gave me an opportunity to go do a little hike on my own, of course they could see me, I would run and just sprint up to the top of that, 6,000-7,000 foot mountain.
It basically made you into Rambo.
They turned me into Rambo, but I really started to develop an identity, and I told myself I wanted to come back and I wanted to do things better. I wanted to be better. I wanted to be better. I didn't want to hang out with the same crowd that wasn't doing anything.
So from there, what school did you go to from there?
So I graduate from there, and then I come back to Houston, Texas.
Oh, you went to Idaho.
But you're right. They hired a guy to transport me because they didn't think with my track record that I'd go willingly, and they transported me to Bonners Ferry, Idaho, which is one of the most gorgeous places. I'd love to go back here one day. And I went to then a boarding school for troubled teens, and you learn life lessons there. They teach you how to cook. You get to go to the gym. And once again, that's when I started to develop that identity for myself again. And I started going towards fitness, started going towards health, started doing abs every day, and started really wanting to understand who I was.
How long did you stay there for?
That was for about a year.
I'm pretty sure what happened was when I came up there, the first time I came up there, I didn't want you to go there. I wanted you to go to a tennis academy because I knew that was your best sport. And what happened was when I went up there the first time, I saw it was a white trash redneck type of atmosphere, and they based everything upon snitching. So if I saw the cameraman doing something wrong, and if I didn't tell on the cameraman, I'm in the same amount of trouble. And I knew that wasn't going to work for Kirby, because if Kirby and the cameraman wind up robbing Chase Bank, and Kirby gets caught, he's going to take the time. He's not going to snitch. So I came home and told his mother. I said, I'm getting him out of that place. I made a deal with him. If he does the proper work for 30 days, I'm going back and I'm getting into another academy. And I got him into the Chris Evert Tennis Academy. So what happens at the Chris Evert Tennis Academy?
They didn't let me in.
They did. They did. You stayed there for 5 days, and then they fell in love with you, and then they got your records, and they had become the #1 tennis academy in the United States. And Chris Evert was not going to jeopardize their academy because of Kirby. His record said that he was a total screw up, that he was going to smoke weed, and he was going to jeopardize their certification. So immediately, and the Chris Evert Tennis Academy was the perfect place for him because it was about 1.5 miles from where my brother lived in Boca Raton, Florida. So I had somebody else to watch him there.
Right.
But from there at the Chris Evert Tennis Academy, I then called the John Newcomb Tennis Academy, where he had been before, and they offered you a 30% scholarship.
Definitely. I ended up going to John Newcomb's Tennis Academy, and once again, this Achilles heel kept following me around. I ended up, really
What's the
loving
Achilles
it.
heel?
The Achilles heel was smoking weed. And I ended up failing a drug test for smoking weed at John Newcomb's Tennis Academy. And once again, my dad is a lawyer. He was able to talk me they kicked me out. He was able to talk them into giving me one more shot. They give me one more shot. I win one of the biggest tennis tournaments you could win. And I became a super champ, which put me as one of the, top 200 or 300 players in the state of Texas. And literally 2 days after that tennis tournament, because of course I wanted to celebrate and smoke some weed after that tennis tournament as a kid, and something that I love to do. They ended up flagging me again and said, "Hey, you have to take another drug test." And I said, "I'm screwed again." So I took the other drug test, and they kicked me out again.
It wasn't his complete fault that he got caught that time, because at the John Newcomb Tennis Academy, when you win a tournament, you're allowed to take 3 days off, and
it was 100% my fault. I was smoking weed. I was definitely smoking weed with other kids in the academy, so it was definitely 100% my fault. John Newcomb's Tennis Academy is an exceptional tennis academy, and I would recommend any kid to go there because it truly is a fantastic tennis academy. Fossil Phil, rock solid, mate. Keep going. I'll see you at the top.
It's an incredible place. Some of the best tennis players in the world come from the John Newcomb Tennis Academy. And for people that are in the Texas area, that if you want to get your kids to be a really good tennis player in a really short period of time, take a vacation there for a weekend or a week. I guarantee you that if you let your child play there for 1 week, you won't beat him after the week, because that's what happened with me and him.
So I ended up getting kicked out of there, and then I ended up moving back to Houston, Texas, and kind of fell back into the same pattern again, just smoking weed, not really doing much.
I think what happened was when you got kicked out of John Newcomb Tennis Academy, a short time later, we went to Europe. And let's take a break. Welcome back to the See You at the Top podcast. We took a break, and the reason why we took a break is I didn't have to use the restroom, I didn't have to need any water, but I was reading Kirby's face, and I knew I was doing something wrong. I'm 68 years old right now, 58 on Facebook, and I read faces because I was a trial lawyer for many years and still am a trial lawyer. But when I saw the look in Kirby's face, he's the boss right now, so I knew I was doing something wrong. So let's see if we can continue this where we were at. We're talking about weed.
You're the boss, Dad, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. So if we were talking about smoking weed, and the reason we did take that break is because I want to tell this whole story. Originally, I told my dad when I first graduated from the University of Texas, Dallas, I said, "Dad, stop telling my story. I'm not comfortable with you telling that." But the reason being is because I had a lot of regret back then. I didn't feel like where I wanted to be. But the reason I want to tell my entire story now is because I feel like I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And I feel like I can use this as inspiration, all the ups, the downs, the challenges, the lessons, to inspire somebody else going through something similar. So that's why I realized that we weren't going to have enough time to tell my whole story, so we cut it and we're going to finish it. There's a kid that I keep in touch with from John Newcomb's Tennis Academy, which we were talking about. There's a few friends that I still have from John Newcomb's Tennis Academy. A lot of them stay up to date with KirBeBetter, which makes my day because I'm most inspired by KirbyBetter than anything else I'm doing right now. It is the highest version of Kirby Chenkin, and I'm going to keep moving this thing forward, and I will never give up on it. I don't use the word never, except I'll never quit, and I will never give up on KirBeBetter. So I was at John Newcomb's Tennis Academy, and I got kicked out for the second time. And this time, my dad wasn't able to use his legal skills to manipulate them from letting me in one more time. They said, Mr. Chenkin, we do love Kirby. He has so much potential. He has so much talent. I heard that my entire life, but I kept screwing up over and over. And there was something inside of me that just said, it's not going to be like this all the time. I got to change something. And this was a change right here. So one of the kids that I really love smoking weed with the most, and I'm pretty sure he still follows KirBeBetter too, and I hope he hears this because this was a very impactful moment in my life. I told him I got kicked out, and I said they weren't going to let me back in this time. And me and him had a great connection because we'd always go half on smoking weed together. He'd pick me up because I didn't have a car, and we'd go smoke weed. And this was the last time that we were smoking weed together, and this is the last time that I saw him. And he picks me up, and we smoke weed together. We had a great conversation, just said, hey man, let's definitely stay in touch. We had some awesome times together, had a great connection with him. He ended up going off to UT, and I hope he's doing great right now. But right before I left, I'll never forget, right before he dropped me back off at Nuke's Academy, he said something to me. And I'm not going to use the word because I don't use cuss words anymore. But he looked at me right in my eyes, and he said, Kirby, you're a screw up. And it hit me like a rock, and I have not forgot that since. Because when you're so caught up in these things, when you're smoking all this weed, when you're hanging around the wrong crowd, you're kind of numb to all the pain. You're numbing yourself. You're not really realizing that you're not evolving and growing. So many people don't realize that they're stuck in their life. They're comfortable where they're at, and it's because they're numb. And when he told me that you're an F-up, it hit me like a rock. And I went home back to my dorm at Nuke's, and I just started thinking, and I said, oh my gosh, I really am a screw-up. And I couldn't believe it because I always had this feeling inside that I was really going to achieve big things one day. But the truth of the matter was I was an F-up. And that's what he told me to my face, and it hit me like a rock. And I didn't forget that moment. And you know what? I'm no longer a screw-up. And nobody's a screw-up. They just haven't figured out exactly who they are and what they want. And we're going to save the rest of my story for the next episode of the See at the Top podcast. Dad, this has been an absolute pleasure. I love you more than words can describe. I wouldn't be anything if it wasn't for you. And you know what? We're going to keep going. We're not going to give up.
See you at the top. I see you at the top. That's where I go.